Hello and welcome to Property Question Time. This is the programme where you can have your property related questions answered by our team of experts. I'm Stephen Galpin and with me today are Paul Mahoney. Paul, welcome. CEO of Nova Financial Group, public speaker and author.
Thanks, Stephen.
Good to see you. John
Stephen.
Howard, welcome
Hi.
again. Property developer, author, mentor, public speaker. Very busy chap.
I am.
Good. Great to see you and thank you both for your time coming in today. Well, as you can see, we're coming from our new studio adjacent to Canary Wharf, so hope you're enjoying this experience,
Fantastic.
both of you.
Fantastic.
Good. Okay, Paul, I'm going to ask you the first question, and it's this. Investing in the north is great for new investors living within reasonable travelling distance of their investment location. However, although percentage returns on investment are higher in the north, actual returns, I presume he means by that cash, actual returns are higher in London and the home counties. Is this simply a result of property prices being higher in London, or perhaps real demand levels differing within the market?
Okay.
Sorry, bit of a few questions.
Yeah, there's a few points to that. All right, let's work through a couple of those points individually. I think there's a few assumptions made there. First off, they mention about it being the north being good for new investors. I assume that's because it's a lower entry level, which is probably true. You know, you can get yield. You know, you can get a lot more for your money. There's safety in yield. Whereas, of course, if you're buying somewhere in London, the yields are much lower. The borrowing, therefore, that you're able to access is much lower. More cash applied, and there's less of a safety net. So I assume that's probably that's quite right. I don't necessarily agree that your property needs to be within travelling distance of where you live. I think investing should be very unemotional and commercially minded, and it should be about investing in the best possible property and location for your goals, and really nothing to do with where you've just happened to choose to live, because that's very emotional. That's just my opinion. In the right circumstances, with the right team around you and all that sort of thing. So far as assuming that it depends what they mean by actual returns in London and the southeast is better. If they're talking about, you know, in London you get £500 rent a month and in Manchester you get £300 rent a month, if that's what they mean, then of course you need to look at that relative to the purchase price.
Sure.
Because of course the yields, being the percentage of rent divided by purchase price, are obviously far greater in the north, you know, quite often more than double that available in London. If perhaps they're referring to the capital growth that London and the southeast has experienced, certainly historically they'd be right, but I don't agree that past performance is an indication of future performance.
Oh, that's interesting.
And if you look at the past 3 years, for example, the fastest growing cities in the UK have been Birmingham, Manchester and Liverpool. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. You know, we saw the nationwide house price index come out a couple of days ago, which said that the UK has only grown by 0.2%, I think it was, on average over the past year. Whereas then the home track index came out and it said 2.2. And that's because nationwide is southern focused, whereas home track looks at the whole country. In that same home track report, it said that all those three cities I just mentioned have grown by more than 5% over the past 12 months.
And what do you put that down to?
I put that down to net migration within the UK, so people moving from the south to the north. There's a lot of that happening.
To get better value for money?
Better value for money. Like, for example, 300 grand in London buys you nothing, pretty much. Nothing really, any central locations or that's really worth buying. You can get a penthouse apartment in any of those three cities I've just mentioned in the centre for that sort of money.
But you can also get that in other parts of the south as well.
Potentially, yes, but they won't be as significant economic hubs.
No, I agree. No, I agree with that.
So that leads on to the next points: employment, infrastructure, facilities, amenities. You know, the young professionals today want to live with all those things on their doorstep, and those cities I just mentioned offer those things. So that's part of the driving factor. Infrastructure is a key one as well. There's lots of money being spent in those cities. I think London is always going to do well. From a property perspective, people want to have property in London regardless of where they live. But as an investment, it's very, very difficult to justify it in today's market, given the limited borrowing ability, given the property price and the amount of cash that you need to apply.
Well, the entry level is so
property.
huge, isn't
The
it?
entry level is huge, and I think Paul, what most of what you say, I think is absolutely sound. What I would say about the north, you do need to be careful, and you've mentioned the big cities, and I agree with that entirely. What you've got to remember in the north, there's not really housing shortage at all. So you need to pick areas of, where there's a lot of people, a lot of work and so on.
Absolutely.
Some of these other areas that look very cheap, they're very cheap for a reason.
I agree completely.
And don't buy them.
And
basically.
I think too many people look at property from a macro perspective. They look at the UK property market. There's no such thing. And there's also no such thing as the greater Manchester property market. There's so many different areas within that.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you, there isn't a shortage in a lot of these northern cities, but in the central areas of all those three cities I mentioned, there is.
I agree. And the other thing is, what are you going to do if you buy a property up north and you live down south? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, how many times do you go and look at a property and stand outside it because you've got a tenant in and go, yeah, that's mine, that's mine. I mean, I've had properties in the Isle of Wight for 27, 28 years. I've never been back since.
But John, it comes back to the same thing again, doesn't it, over this sort of location business. If you've got the right team around you,
you need the right team around you.
Right managing agent.
And it sounds easy for me, I understand, and for Paul, I understand it, because we've got a good team around us. You need to get a good team. Whatever you're doing in life, you need the business, you need a really good team. The team need to be better than you. That's the key.
Okay. Anything extra to that, Paul?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, good. John, we're going to move on to your question. You're really going to love this one.
Oh, great.
My ambition is to be a property developer.
Good.
I've read some horror stories about developments going wrong and mistakes being made. What's the worst mistake you've ever made as a panellist in the property industry?
The worst mistake I've ever made? Goodness me, let me have a think. I've made some. The great thing is, I now tell people what those mistakes are, how not to do them.
Right,
so,
okay.
So they've got to start on me, so that's good. Goodness me. Well, of course, when there's a property recession coming, or you're in a property recession, it's not all your own fault. Slightly your own fault, because you have bought it.
Right.
But when the market's doing that, and I do tell people how to get out of that situation, having survived 3 recessions, I think the biggest thing is not to borrow too much money on any one project, because even then, if the market goes down, you can get out of it. And actually, everything I've bought, I've managed to get out of, even if I've made a mistake. And by the way, sometimes I realise I've made a mistake very early on, and I've just shot it out straight away. I haven't battled on. I haven't buried my head in the sand for 3 years, pretending it's going to get better, because it doesn't. If you make a mistake, and I've done that, put your hand up, accept it, get rid as quick as possible, and move on to the next. Get as much cash back as you can from that deal, and move on to the next deal you can make some money on. There's no point harping on, going on and on and on about how you thought you could do it and you haven't done it. And you're only as good as your next deal. So don't worry whether you've lost money on your deal. Ignore it. Move on to the next deal. You're only as good as your next deal. And your next deal's a good deal, great.
Well, I think there's a couple of things there, John, isn't there? I mean, I think one of the cleverest things you can do in the property market is understand when you're in a recession and understand when you're in a boom time as well.
Spot on, absolutely.
And people don't always get that right. No. They think a boom's going to go on forever.
Well, they're like gamblers. One more go, one more spin. I can buy and sell one more before it drops. Yeah. You know, it's like pass the parcel.
But again, you're right. I mean, Paul's words earlier, don't get sort of emotive about property.
It's a business.
And people do tend to hang on to things hoping it'll come right, and it very rarely does.
Well, funny enough, I got criticised in an article for someone came to some speaking I did, a journalist, and he said, I've never met a property person so empty about the property they're talking about. And I'm enthusiastic about property, but I'm not particularly enthusiastic about any one property that I buy, because I need to be level about it. I'm not buying it because I love it. I'm not buying it because you have to be level, and you have to have a business opinion and a business attitude to it.
Well, I used to work many years ago for quite a big firm of chartered surveyors, and the senior surveyor used to say to me there's only one sort of good property, and that's a sold property.
Spot on, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's all we've got time for in this half of the show, so join us again after the break.
Property is a great investment option, but it's one of the largest purchases that you'll ever make. As individuals, we're all limited by our resources, and regardless of our experience, knowledge or time, we can achieve much more with the help of a qualified team and extra resources being available. Nova Financial specialise in assisting clients to achieve financial freedom through property investment. With over 100 years of experience, we shape your family's future. To invest in property with absolute confidence, call us on 0203 8600 or visit nova.financial.
My name is John Howard, and I've been investing and developing properties for over 40 years. In that time, I've been very successful, but of course I've always made the odd mistake as well. In my book, I explain how to be successful and what to do should something go wrong. I've survived 3 property recessions. I can help you do the same. My book is available online. Please go to johnhowardpropertyexpert.co.uk.
LH1 London offers a great exit strategy when acting for developers as their international sales and marketing consultant. Our global reach helps you sell your prime located high-density residential development and in turn brings excellent value to the discerning property investor. As investors ourselves, we fully understand the key fundamentals that are required when targeting the next investment hotspot. LH1 London are arguably the UK's most acquisitive buyers of city centre apartment blocks. If you're a developer, then we need to talk.
Meet the Author is a brand new mini-series involving leading experts in the property industry, including mentors, developers, property lawyers and other industry experts who share insightful stories about their journey and their books. Each book is compiled by authors with years of valuable experience, tips and observations, providing you with new knowledge about the property industry. To find out more, visit the website property-tv.co.uk/library.
Being an entrepreneur can be a lonely place. Most businesses don't even get past the first 3 years. So in this series, we're going to be talking to entrepreneurs that are high-performing or high-performing businesses that can help you with hints, tips and hacks to help you fast-forward your way to success. My name's Mark Burgess. I've got over 20 years experience working as an entrepreneur, building up various different businesses. I've wrote a best-selling book, I speak nationally and internationally at different conferences, and this is Raising Your Game.
Hello and welcome to Property TV. I'm Stephen Galpin, host of Property Question Time. We've completed the filming of Series 1, over 260 successful episodes. We're now about to film Series 2. The difference? Well, we're going to be filming in our new studio adjacent to the Canary Wharf development. Keep those questions coming in to us, keep our panellists, our experts busy, and we hope you enjoy the new series as much as you did the last one. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time. With me are Paul Mahoney and John Howard, and I'm Stephen Galpin. So, Paul, your next question. I'm at the point of creating a small buy-to-let portfolio. If I buy the properties in individual limited companies, when I come to sell these properties, I'm told that I could just sell the company with the assets in place and therefore help the purchaser negate the need to pay any stamp duty. Is this correct? If it is correct, it would of course make my properties very attractive for a purchaser, especially given the fact that it could avoid the multiple level of property stamp duty where 2 or more properties are involved. What do you think?
Okay, yeah, I've heard of this being done before. Obviously this person would seek tax advice specific to their situation, but yes, technically my understanding is that you can sell the shares and the person takes over the company, because obviously it's the company that owns the property, not the individual, and therefore there wouldn't be a change of ownership of the property, and therefore there wouldn't be stamp duty or capital gains.
I think you pay 0.5% stamp duty.
Right, okay.
I think it's 0.5%.
And is that on the basis of the shares?
Yeah.
Right, I see.
I suppose that some of the difficulties with that is does this person want to buy the property within a limited company? Obviously it's depending on the size of this portfolio, if they're going to have 10 properties in 10 different companies, there's also accounting costs associated with that.
Spot on, Paul.
So I've not heard of somebody buying a portfolio of properties split across many, many different companies. I have heard of people building a portfolio within perhaps one company and then trying to sell the company, but that creates the difficulty of finding someone who actually wants your portfolio.
And also presumably somebody who could get finance for a relatively anonymous company, I suppose, or if that's the right word. I don't
Well, they
know.
take over they basically buy the shares, so actually the finance would stay in place.
Yes, and I think the stamp duty you're referring to is the stamp duty you pay on purchasing shares.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to related to the property purchase.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting point, Paul. From the point of view of finance, if the company that had the properties had got an existing mortgage, do you think the lender would be happy to pass it across if there's a substantial shareholding change?
The lender wouldn't pass it across, in all cases I know of anyway, because the director and shareholder, the initial director and shareholder, would have to give a personal guarantee to that lender.
They'd have to be replaced, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so effectively that they are involved in the lending. What I would assume would have to happen is the new buyer would need to take out new mortgages on the properties. Now, depending on the size of the portfolios, where they are and what they are,
Expensive.
it could be expensive. They might find one lender that would do the whole lot. There are lenders that would do portfolio lending, or they might need to split it across a number of lenders. So, I suppose what they're trying to do here, so far as avoiding stamp duty, there's an old saying of not letting the tax tail wag the investment dog.
Good.
And I think that's a relevant point here.
Paul, I think you're right. And certainly I get offered a number of portfolios, and then when they want to sell the company, my heart sinks. Because the due diligence we'd have to do with the accountants to make sure that all those properties and the company has not had any problems. Someone hasn't fallen down the stairs 4 years ago and is going to claim in a year's time on us and this sort of thing. It's virtually impossible. I was always taught by a very experienced, wealthy backer who I still deal with his family now. Never, ever, ever buy a company because you don't know what you're buying. You don't know what you're buying.
Well, even if you're given assurances, you've got to look at the worth of those assurances, haven't
absolutely.
you?
And someone, you bought the portfolio and they've gone to Australia even to live. I know some people might want to do that. Or wherever, you'll never get hold of them again. So, it's very difficult.
Well, guys, I think your answer is here. Just be careful.
Don't do it, basically.
John, let's move on to your second question. I'm just about to lay the first brick on a new development of 6 apartments within the M25.
Congratulations. Fantastic. Exciting time.
This is my first project.
Yep.
So could I ask the panel what they think perhaps the 3 key areas are that I should concentrate on through to the journey to completion?
Right. Time, cost, and prices, sale prices. They're the 3 things they should be conscious about. 1, to keep it on time, because time costs money. Secondly, to keep the cost at what the price is that you've been given to build it. And if they're building it themselves, that's a bit harder to do. If you've got a builder in on a fixed contract and time, that's much easier, obviously. And also, don't believe the hype on the sale prices. Listen to what the agent says, but make your own mind up what they're worth. Because if the agent's got them wrong and you take 6 months to sell your first flat, you're not going to be very happy. So they're the 3 things you need to be very, very disciplined and controlled, and don't mentally think you've sold them for God knows what money until you've sold them, because it's the last one, by the way, that's the profit in your deal. So never mind about the other 5, you need to get the 6th one sold. So don't start celebrating with champagne and taking your beautiful wife or girlfriend or mistress out for dinner until the last one's sold. Then you can celebrate.
We're not all so fortunate as you, John.
What can I say?
There we are. Okay, now look, gents, what we're going to do now is talk about something we call an extra time, and it's just an open discussion on perhaps a topical subject, and that subject this week is this: what would the panel like to see any new government do to revitalise the housing market?
Shall I go first?
You can go first.
Okay, so last Friday I was with the Secretary of State for Housing, Robert Jenrick, and I was bending his ear on a number of subjects. One, brownfield sites, which is another issue. And he was asking me what did I think about the stamp duty and empty rates on commercial property in town centres and so on. There are a number of things I think the government can do, and I think we'd both agree probably that stamp duty is the 3% levy on stamp duty. The reason they did it was to slow down the London market. Well, my goodness, they've achieved that. But unfortunately, what they've also done is slow down the rest of the investment market as well. And I think if there was going to be a budget, which there was going to be, I think that's one of the issues that, one of the things the Chancellor's Exchequer might have lightened up on a bit. Not completely, but I think he might have done something. Paul?
Yeah, I agree. I think anything to incentivise more supply, because there in all of the major cities across the UK, there is an undersupply of properties. You know, the government announced recently there's a requirement for 300,000 new properties per annum.
Yep.
And the average per annum for the past 10 years has been about 150.
230?
I think it was 230 last year or thereabouts.
Yeah.
But as an average, I think it was less than
I think they're aiming for 300,000, but they actually probably need more, this is the truth. But they're aiming for 300,000.
And I think where landlords get a bad name is that they are taking properties from potential first-time buyers or potential owner-occupiers, and maybe that is the case in some cases. But where that isn't the case is if they're investing their money in new builds. Because landlords buying, especially off-plan properties, help new builds get off the ground. They help more supply occur. And we mentioned Australia just now. There is a policy in Australia where they do incentivise landlords to buy new. And the incentive is that you're able to depreciate part of the value of the property over the first 10 years. You don't get that with second-hand properties. And that encourages landlords to buy new properties because there are tax benefits to it.
But Paul, do you then get a two-tier market? The Help to Buy scheme has actually created a bit of a two-tier market as it is. Yeah. Do you think that would create a bigger one?
I just think there needs to be some form of incentive to drive the private rental sector's money toward new build properties where they are needed.
But you know, we've got a situation in London where prices just seem to just escalate no matter what.
Well, they have come down a bit over the last 2 or 3 years.
But you know, I just had an email earlier on today that just came through to my phone, and it was from one of the very big agencies.
One of your mates.
And it said, real big announcement. We've actually just put on the market 6 properties at less than £1.6 million, as if it's some kind of amazing achievement. but you know, when
it is in your world.
Well, when we're talking about stamp duty, each one of those properties would be paying around about £125,000.
When you think about it, it's bonkers
of unfundable money.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'd quite like to move house myself, but the stamp duty kills it for me. I think, well, I might as well spend a bit more money on the house I've got, actually, than I should be moving. You know, it stops all sorts of people moving.
Now, one of the things that we championed earlier on Property TV earlier in the year was the reversal of stamp duty being charged not to the buyer but to the seller.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the downside of that is the seller will automatically say, "Whoa, I paid stamp duty going in." Well, that's all right. You can handle that because you can just credit that against the stamp duty on going out. But at least it would be fundable.
Well, I think the fundable thing is it's actually. Was that your idea?
Yes.
Well, actually, that's quite a good idea. I think. I don't know about you, Paul. What I would say on that is that it will take time to work, and when it's not working, the agents and people trying to sell are bleeding. Yeah. You know, it will take time for people to accept it. Oh, well, you know, I didn't know you used to have to pay it, now I have. Well, that's life. And it just takes a bit of time for the market to adjust, probably. But I think that's a relatively good idea.
The cash that has to go into stamp is obviously a barrier to entry.
Well, you can't borrow it. That's the problem. Yeah. You can't borrow the money. If you could borrow it, that would be different. And that is part
of the beauty of the Help to Buy that you mentioned. Yes. In that obviously first-time buyers get a concession, but then if it, for example, is over that 300,000 concession mark, a lot of developers are paying for the stamp duty.
Yeah, well, they are, but they're trying to. But of course, a lot of building societies won't allow them to do that. They're saying it's an incentive. It needs to come off the value of the price of the place.
All right.
So it's crazy, but it's a little. But you can sort of understand it.
There you are, gents. I'm going to end this conversation with something sort of very simplistic, I think, if you like. I've had a lot of agents this week tell me that the London market's really picking up, and their viewings are getting up and up and up. And do you know what? I think there's a very technical word for this sudden surge of interest, and it's called boredom.
Yes.
I think people are bored with talking about Brexit.
Brexit fatigue.
Bored,
I have to
bored
say,
with the effect.
I'm also very suspicious at the time of year and what's about to happen and so on. If it was early next year, I might believe them.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, that's all we've got time for today. So big thank you to my guests, Paul Mahoney and John Howard.
Pleasure.
Thank you both very much, gents. See you again next time on Property Question Time.
Property is a great investment option, but it's one of the largest purchases that you'll ever make. As individuals, we're all limited by our resources, and regardless of our experience, knowledge or time, we can achieve much more with the help of a qualified team and extra resources being available. Nova Financial specialise in assisting clients to achieve financial freedom through property investment. With over 100 years of experience, we shape your family's future. To invest in property with absolute confidence, call us on 0203 8600 or visit nova.financial.
Hi, I'm John Howard and I'm known as the property expert. The reason for this is over the last 40 odd years, I've bought and sold over 3,500 properties and I'm still going. I'm delighted to pass on my vast experience and knowledge to you through my property seminars that are taking place across the UK this year. To know more, please go to johnhowardpropertyexpert.co.uk.
I'm Nicholas Woolwork, businessman, investor, real estate developer and entrepreneur. In my book, Investing in International Real Estate for Dummies, I teach you specialist strategies you can use to build wealth and create an income through property and real estate investing anywhere in the world. I can steer you away from the common pitfalls and help you choose which investment strategy is right for you. This book will tell you all you need to know to grow a profitable real estate portfolio.
Whether you like to wet shave or prefer an electric shaver, you'll love this little gem, the Microforce Wet and Dry Shaver. Half the size of a conventional electric shaver with amazing power. It's cordless. Use it wet or dry for a close and comfortable shave. Micro technology makes it shorter and narrower than a credit card, but still gives you two amazing shaving surfaces with fantastic power of 9,000 RPM for a close, clean and comfortable shave. Plus, it's completely waterproof. This amazing shaver can be used in the shower. Use it anywhere, anytime. Now, we don't suggest shaving underwater, but we did it to prove how well Microforce works. Microforce, powered by two AAA batteries. Extremely compact, so it's easy to be perfectly groomed wherever you go. Slip one in your briefcase, keep one in the car, in your office drawer. So if you're away from home and need a shave, Microforce. Incredible value. As an added bonus, you'll also receive our deluxe 10-piece grooming kit. Always look your best. And if you don't agree Microforce is convenient and gives you a clean, comfortable shave, simply return it within 14 days of purchase. But you can keep the grooming kit as our gift. That's right, you get the Microforce Wet and Dry Shaver, a spare foil, cleaning brush, 4 AAA batteries and the amazing deluxe 10-piece grooming kit. Microforce, call now.
Meet the Author is a brand new mini-series involving leading experts in the property industry, including mentors, developers, property lawyers and other industry experts who share insightful stories about their journey and their books. Each book is compiled by authors with years of valuable experience, tips and observations, providing you with new knowledge about the property industry. To find out more, visit the website property-tv.co.uk/library.
Hello and welcome to Property TV. I'm Stephen Galpin, host of Property Question Time. We've completed the filming of Series 1, over 260 successful episodes. We're now about to film Series 2. The difference? Well, we're going to be filming in our new studio adjacent to the Canary Wharf development. Keep those questions coming in to us, keep our panellists, our experts busy, and we hope you enjoy the new series as much as you did the last one.